Amen. I've been excited to walk through the series. As many of you know, if you've come to Christ Church to any amount of time, we walk through series, topical expository, it's called on a technical level, through series in Scripture to say, what does the Bible say about this? And the series that we're launching is not just a normal one that we started last week, but we're saying, how can we equip our congregation to live out this Proverbs 13:22 call to say, a wise person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. And so I'm excited about the fact that God can position us to impact and leave an inheritance, not just spiritually, not just good ethics, good moral, good biblical standards, but to leave material blessing even that could free up the next generation to fulfill all that God has for them and for us. But if we're gonna do that, we have to take a look at certain things. And it's the title of my talk today that I want to take a look at. And the title of the talk is Conquering the Debt Beast. If we're going to be able to leave an inheritance for our children's children, we need to conquer this debt beast. And when I'm dealing with debt in this talk, I'm dealing with mainly consumer debt that we accrue at times. That's not healthy. That's hindering us from what? From living out that Proverbs 13:22 life. To say I want to be holistic in the way I view my finances and utilize them as a way to honor God, because it truly is a beast. And the reason why you may think a beast, it's not all that. Sometimes we don't realize how bad that debt can be a beast until the impacts hit us, like insomnia, anxiety. These are medically proven impacts. Anxiety, hurt, pain, depression, all because we've been so strapped at times by this consumer debt that we take on. In fact, they did a research on the impact it can have on marriages. And this is a very sensitive topic. I don't want to minimize it. It was on 2017, Magnify Money did research. They said 21% of divorcees talked about the debt being the number one reason for their divorce. 1 out of 5 marriages was debt. It was the number one reason. Then they found that the more money a couple made, that was a higher reason for divorce. So if you made over 100 grand, it was about 1 out of 3 couples that said debt money was the issue. If you made about $50,000 to $99,000, they said it was about 24%, and then it was 18% if you made less than $50,000 collectively as a couple. But as in the words of the great philosopher, the notorious B.I.G., more money, more problems. But I love the fact that that's just describing the ailment, but I love the fact that we serve a God that can conquer even the beast of debt. And biblical principles give us this. Don't think this is not a Bible issue. This is very much a Bible issue. Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. And so it gives us principles of understanding how this works if we become to be enslaved. But again, like I said, if God is calling us to a 13:22 challenge, he's the same Jesus that can lift us out of this pit of debt to put us on solid ground to say, let's fulfill all that I've called you to fulfill. So now the question becomes then, where do I go from here? Here's some promises I want to make you throughout this series on money or on finances or understanding Proverbs 13:22 and to live that out. Here's some promises I want to make as a team. You will learn to manage your money more effectively with no judgment attached. This isn't a time to judge. This isn't a time for shame. This isn't a time to feel guilty. It's a time to say, thank God, I'm about to learn a remedy to get through it. 2, you will learn life-changing strategies on debt reduction and how to bounce back from financial setbacks. Where do you go from here? 3, you will not be asked to give a special gift beyond your normal tithe and offering. You're not asked to give a special gift towards the church. This is simply to equip you. 4, you'll be challenged to make hard decisions to reach your financial goals. Your financial goals are too important for us to be frivolous, and we're gonna be challenged. And number 5, you'll learn how to build wealth, money that lasts for generations, to meet the 1322 challenge. I love the contemporary English version of 22:7. What we were talking about is the poor are ruled by the rich, and those who borrow are slaves of moneylenders. So how do I conquer this debt beast? First is avoid debt. I know you thought I was gonna give you like some super secret sauce, but the first principle is simply avoid debt. Avoid it. Don't play with it. Understand that this is a beast. And again, I'm talking about mainly consumer debt or things that we take on that we don't need to. Because what this verse is saying, they're slaves. We can be a slave to it, which means slaves are restricted. Slaves can't do whatever they want. They have a certain level of freedom that's been removed from them. They have a certain level of movement that they can't even walk in. They can't even go to a certain place of creativity and take ownership of managing their lives if they don't realize they're enslaved. But what I'm saying here is that this proverb is teaching us, just try to avoid it as best as possible. Now, I want to be responsible with this topic of debt by saying there are 5 different types of debt. One is credit card debt. Credit card debt. 2 is the consumer debt. And very often when we're looking at different types of consummation, car loans and all that, there's investment debt where you can invest. There's mortgage debt, well, we understand that. And then there's business debt. I understand certain times. I was talking to a businessman last service where he has to take on certain contracts, though he only has a certain amount. So I get that. But what I am saying is before we enter into any kind of debt, we can ask ourselves some very good clarifying questions. If we're going to avoid it, this is how we ask ourselves clarifying questions. Here's one question you could ask. Does it make sense given my other financial obligations? Does it make sense for me to take on this debt given the amount of stuff I'm paying off at this current moment? Do I need it right now? The second question you can ask yourself, here it is, are my spouse and I in agreement on taking this debt? If you're married, are both you and your spouse in agreement? And I want to put a disclaimer out there, and I mean this pastorally and lovingly. Please don't utilize a message like this as a weapon against your spouse. This is not the time to argue in the car on the way back. This is not the time to go, I told you so. This is not the time to nudge them in church, nothing. This is not the time for that, because very often, most people say you find some savers are married to spenders. How many of you know what that means? One has a propensity to really want to withdraw. The other one's like, no, let's let it free. It's not necessarily one or bad or the other. It's just they attract. So please don't use this as a weapon. Don't use this to discourage them or anything. Use it as motivation to say, we're going to conquer this beast. Here's another question. Do I have a peace of mind or freedom to enter into this debt? So if you are going to make a business move or start a business, is there a peace about this to say, hey, I know I need to take this on, but I got a peace about this? And am I entering into this debt because of guilt or obligation? What do I mean by that? Some people will utilize, especially if you're a Christ follower, you can have relatives or friends that play the Christian card when asking money from you. They go, come on, you're supposed to be, you're a Christian. Let me get some money. Let me borrow this money. Can you help me get out this bind? And I'm not against getting someone out of a bind at times. I'm not against that. But I am saying sometimes people are living irresponsibly and they expect you or I to clean it up. And that hurts more than helps. I remember a relative of mine, we got a called my wife and I and said, hey, I want to borrow $100. And I remember thinking, and I didn't mind the 100, but you ever had somebody ask a question and kind of gave you a pause, like you had a check in your heart, or like, let me just think about this. They said, let me borrow $100. And one of the philosophies of my wife and I, first, we never just give out money. We always converse about it. Number 2, we only part with money that we will be okay with if we never got paid back for it. That's kind of things we would be okay. We're not going to be, putting anything else on the line. But I said, let me get a moment to think about this. True story. My family member calls me back a few hours later. and calls us back. Oh, there's a concert coming into town. The ticket's only $150. Who wants to come? I'm dying to go. I'm like, oh, duh. You just asked me for $100 early morning, late afternoon. You want to go to the concert so that showed me all I needed to see. It wasn't a money issue. It was a value issue. You wanted to take my money to pay for your necessities, but you wanted your money for your luxuries. Don't let a person guilt you in. Proverbs 22:26-27, the Good News Bible says, don't promise to be responsible for someone else's debt. If you should be unable to pay, they will take away even your bed. How do I modernize this in our here and now? Don't co-sign. I'm not saying all the time, but just be very leery and know what you're signing up for. Be very leery to co-sign. I don't care how much promises they give you or whatever. Be very wise on those moves. Why? Because you want to avoid debt. Sometimes avoiding debt means checking our sense and our need to be moved by delaying my gratification. I want to be gratified right away. I want it right now. I want to make this work. And you know, it's interesting. Stanford University in 1972 did research on delayed gratification. What they did was bring children into a room, and it's called the marshmallow test. They put a marshmallow on the table for them, and they said, you're gonna have 15 minutes. I'm gonna put this marshmallow. If you don't eat this marshmallow within 15 minutes, when we come back, we'll give you 2 marshmallows. Let me show you how this test went. Check it out. It's about delayed gratification.
Okay, sit in that chair. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have 2. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right. I'm gonna go do something, and then I'll come back.
It smells yummy. It smells really good.
All right, so I'm gonna leave and then I'll come back, okay? So you can either eat it right now or you can wait. Either way, okay? Okay. How'd you do? Did you do good? You did? Yeah. You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So did I tell you I'd give you another one? Okay, now you can have both. You need them.
So, delayed gratification has its rewards. In essence, what they found with follow-up research is this, that they said the children that were able to delay their gratification ended up doing better at school, having better student outcomes. They had better SAT scores. They had a better body mass index, which means they were definitely a little bit more in shape. Why? They were just saying there was research that shows how this all impacts. Don't wait till we're older, or if we have raising up children, or if you reflect on our own lives and say, hey, what can we do to teach the benefit of delaying gratification? Because sometimes that inability to delay the gratification causes us to be impulsive in our spending. And we want to avoid that at all ways possible. Now, I don't want to minimize the fact debt being something that's only because of delayed gratification, but I do want to say that may be playing a role. So if we're going to conquer this debt beast, I just unpacked avoid debt. But here's the reality. Many times, and I'll speak for myself, debt is present. So you just can't avoid it. That's a good principle to know, but attack debt. Attack the debt monster. Don't play with it. We don't tickle monsters. Jesus doesn't tickle monsters. We slay them. We slay them. Attack that beast. It's saying, hey, I don't have to wait to slay. Look, there's victory in Jesus. You can get through this now. It's to say, man, we're going to do this collectively as a church family to get through. And my heart, your heart is to say, hey, how could we successfully as a family, as a church, be consistent in living out Proverbs 13:22, that generations after us will be blessed because of the disciplines we put in place. So we attack it. We attack it. You know, one of the ways that we attack it is recognizing our spending habits. So one of the ways to attack it is to say, hey, sometimes I don't want to be impulsive in my buying. I don't want to be impulsive. And we've all made dumb purchases. This is not, I'm talking to you. We have made, wave at me if you've made a ridiculous purchase at one point or another. The rest of you that are not waving, may God set you free from lying right now. May lying be removed right now. No. So we've all made, come on, man. When I was a single young adult and I grew up loving sneakers, and it was like I worked at a sneaker store and I would pay for like all these types of sneakers. And when you start adding up, you know, how many of you know sneakers right now can cost like a car note? The amount you pay, and I would have all this and all that. I was like, hold on. You know, one of the things that cured that real quick was marriage. And so here's a whole other flow right now, but you need to attack it. And if you're gonna attack it, you know what you do? You check your own heart to say this: the issue of debt is not a money issue, it's a heart issue. It's a heart issue. Because sometimes we can lie to ourselves to say, if I get more money, then I'll get rid of it and it will be a non-issue. Sometimes if you don't change the habits, if we don't change the habits that got us there and attack it, you'll bring the same habits into the more money. And the heart is a funny thing because it's tempting. Come on. That's the whole point of temptation. Temptation is not temptation if it's not tempting. I've never seen someone tempted by something they don't desire. That's not, we all have this picture. Come on, think about it. It's tempting when you walk in your car and you start reasoning. A lot of financial advisors will tell you sometimes, and not all the time, I know there's a lot of qualifications, but for the most part, buying a new car is one of the quickest depreciating assets of things you can buy. It depreciates so quick, buying a new car. But when you step into our old car, come on, we step in, we see the crumbs all over the place. You're sitting there like, man, this car. And you start picturing, come on, the temptation comes. I know, God, then you make it a God thing. God didn't call me to be in this car. I've been getting, and especially, you growing your hair, you got new growth, I feel like my car needs to be in the wind, like my head needs to win. And this windows now, I need to remove this roof. There needs to be no roof on this car because the world around me needs to see the blessing of what's flowing through my hair right now. So that temptation, come on, how many of you know what I'm talking about? You're reasoning yourself now. I need a new car. I need the drop top. I need all that. I need to make sure it's good. And then you like, and come on, here's another one. I love the new car scent. I do. I personally like, wave at me if you like the new car. I like the way a new car smells. So let me help you. There's those little trees you can get for 99 cents. And one of the flavors they got is new car scent. You can put it right in right now. You can go get a good vacuum in your car and go that new car scent for 99 cents, free you up. There you go. That's how you attack. You slayed that beast right there. Your car running, you just slayed a beast right there. You didn't fall victim. But come on, we all try it, and we reason away of ways where we can attack it. And one of the things that stops us from attacking is distractions. Sometimes when we want more, and I'm not saying you don't necessarily need it, but do you need it now? It's like a living room set. You can walk into your couch, into your house, like I need a new living room set. And let's say that living room set's $5,000. And you know you don't have like a leisurely extra $5,000 to just blow on a living room set right now. So you're like, I'm gonna put it on a card. Let's say, yeah, it looks beautiful, gorgeous. You're like, I'm gonna get this living room set, I'm gonna put it on a card. And sometimes, you know those cards? They're like 18.9% interest. It's like one of the average rates of most of the store cards. I worked at a spot that the card was 22% interest, 22. But you can say, you know how I'm gonna attack it? Let me be a little more frugal, like this young couple. They sat down and put cardboard boxes in their living room, and they just had a good old blast. No, I'm just kidding. Some of you are like, whoa, brother, you just took it down. But do you need it now? And men, I don't want to make this gender specific, but I must say, when it comes to men, and I'm including myself in this, here's the other temptation for us that kind of distract us from attacking, getting rid of some stuff. I'm a sports fan, and I can't watch certain sports on a certain type of TV. You know where I'm going? You got the 85-inch TV that you need to bring in the house. You're sitting there because you're reasoning with your spouse like, no, I need to see the sweat drip down LeBron James because I need to feel like I'm there. I need to feel the spirit of the game, the spirit that you got to feel from the basketball game. And we'll go get that $5,000 TV on the card, and we'll go, and some of you, no, this is look, no condemnation, no nothing. Some of you bought one this week just for the Super Bowl. You're like, no, I got some friends coming over. I'm setting it up. I'm mounting it, 85-inch. You're going to feel like you're in Miami with the rest of them. You're sitting there like hair blowing in the wind. You got a fan to make that Miami breeze come in front of everybody at the house. They got their own fan. You'll be sitting there, and you're going to watch. And I'm not, listen. Listen, if you bought it, I hear you. Keep it right now. Watch the game tonight. Bring it back tomorrow. So you don't need that type of debt in your life, man. We simply got to attack it. Why? Here's how we attack it. Here's the gift of paying something off in full right away. Here's the gift. Let's say the same $5,000. Let me just show you how it works. Instead of getting a card, right? 18.9% interest at a store. So it's $5,000. The interest rate is 18.9%. And sometimes they encourage you to pay the bare minimum, which is like 2% of what you bought. So $100 is 2%. If you paid the bare minimum on $5,000 with that interest rate, you would have paid after 30 years $9,564. I'm sorry, 19, you saw the number, stop judging me. $19,564. By the time you paid it off, there's holograms in your house watching. You're watching holograms by that point. That's why you should pay it off. Let me show you another way. Maybe you say, okay, I'm gonna attack it, same thing. You say, I'm gonna do 200, I'm gonna double it up. Still, it takes you 11 years, 5 months, and it's $8,109.16 for the same TV. Maybe you said, okay, I'll pay a little bit more. Maybe, there you go, 10%. Still, 4 years later, you paid $5,921. But here's the gift of attacking it head on, you saving up to say, I'm gonna make this one purchase right there for $5,000. You paid it up front, you paid $5,000. So that's the gift of attacking it, delaying it and say, I'm gonna save up, I'm gonna accrue some income. Maybe that's a goal of mine, and nothing wrong with a luxury goal, but you're saving up little by little, and you're taking care of other things to say, hey, I wanna walk in freedom. Having this new thing or this new purchase is not worth my freedom. Why? Because I'm conquering the debt beast. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. One of the tactics, again, this is not gonna hit in full. We'll be rolling out some stuff in the coming weeks that as a family, we're gonna go through. We're gonna be specific. There's gonna be benefits. And you'll see next week, we're gonna unroll a different measure of how we're gonna get through this. But one of the key little tricks of the trade is the snowball debt. The snowball debt is to paying off, or they call it the debt snowball method, where you pay off, and I know there's nuances, like you look at interest rates, but for the most part, you pay off each debt you have, the least to the greatest. And so sometimes they say one of the benefits of snowballing your debt as you pay off least to the greatest, they say one of the benefits is it encourages you along the way to say, hey, I'm getting rid of some stuff. I can see that I'm beating it. Because very often when it comes to debt, we can't see that we're defeating it. We can't. Sometimes you feel like, man, I'm in a black hole. I don't know how I'm gonna ever get out of this. But I need you to see that there's victories you can get little by little, and God is gracious enough to get us through that. And so little by little, you see a snowball. My wife and I have utilized this method and saw some great promise as we continue to strike away at our debt. It was Susan Orman, the financial advisor and author. She said this: the only way you'll ever permanently take control of your financial life is to dig deep and fix the root problem. When it comes to the root problem of our debt, it's saying, you know what? Do I need this now? Why am I chasing after this anyway? Sometimes, not every time, but who am I trying to impress? What goal do I have? Is that realistic for where I am right now? It's saying, I want to get a hold of this. In fact, in 2 weeks, we're going to have a kind of a moment as a family to get rid of some of the credit cards that you and I know we don't need. And we're going to have tables down here in a couple weeks to say, hey, we're going to go and chop those things up, get rid of them in an atmosphere of faith to say we're engaging God, because we believe that this monster, this beast will be defeated in every life and every generation that's connected to this church right here. We're going to have that moment in a couple weeks, so I want you to come ready. And don't get slick and get like your titanium cards and like, see, it doesn't break, told you. God meant for me to have this. But we want to get rid of some stuff. Why? Because the generations that flow from you, the impact, your influence, and what God has called you to do is too great to let us just be bound and or handle our finances in a way that's not biblically wise. It's not wise. But I thank God that we can attack it. I thank God he gives wisdom. And I thank God that we can get through it together. My last and final point, I said avoid debt, attack debt, and aim debt-free. See, when you avoid it, that's like, okay, I get it. If I'm here, maybe you haven't accrued it, maybe you're a young person, you're like, oh, I'm learning from this. When you attack it, it's admitting, I've gotten some stuff got connected to me. This is what I did, but I'm gonna attack it. Now, aim debt-free is saying, listen, you can have a life that's debt-free, that's not that bound by things, this consumer debt that's getting a hold of you. You can, it is possible. It is something that's doable. It doesn't matter if it's normalized to everyone else. You can say, this is doable for me, and I can get out of this. And instead of making excuses for ourselves, like, man, I work hard, I deserve to splurge, you can say, I work hard, I deserve to get out of debt. Why? Because we're aiming for a debt-free life, and that means we got to make hard decisions. And here's the reality. I know my kryptonite. Here's my kryptonite. Lionel, this is me, Lionel King. My kryptonite is eating out sometimes. That is my kryptonite. Listen, when I'm talking about avoiding or aiming for a debt-free life, I struggle with big purchases. My wife laughed, like, I struggle. I'm like, do we really need that stove? I'm saying we could just throw some wood on this floor real quick, burn it, and then, just put a little hot plate over it. I'm the big purchase. Anybody like that? You're the big purchase struggler? I struggle with, like, I pray, like, I'm looking at it, like, I don't know, man, And then you go in, like, let me go back home, pray about this and think about it real quick. Come back. Are you sure? Are you sure we need a refrigerator? I'm saying we couldn't put ice in a cooler and keep this thing out. One of those guys. I struggle with that. But eating out, I will go right away. I'll go eat. I'll grab something on the go really quick. And this is what they found. This is research. They found the average American household or person eats out 4 to 5 times a week. They said the average meal is exactly $12.75 each time you eat out. That's $12.75. Now, they said that's the average meal, and I'm thinking this must have been done in the Midwest, because in Montclair, it's like $35.43. $12.75 might be for the burger, but the fries, that's a whole other $8. So I'm just saying, but let's keep these numbers. And so they said it's about $232 a month per person that we blow on eating out. $232 with the $12.75. $232 on eating out. Boom, gone. $232. That's a couple $1,000s a year just eating out. They said, if the average American, instead of eating out, bought groceries and cooked at home, they said the average meal, when you work out the prices of groceries plus cooking at home, comes out to $4 per meal. $4. They said if you did that, the amount of times you used to eat out, you'll save about $159 a month. Just $159 a month, just if you calm down, if you brought down the eating out. I'm talking about aiming to be debt-free, giving little tools. If you change nothing else and you slow down on eating out, this would change right here. And I love the fact Romans 13:8 reminds us of the beauty of what debt we should keep and what debt to get rid of. It says, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. Let that be our indebtedness, to love one another. That's what Paul says. He says, don't get caught up in debt to others, but to love one another. Let's aim to be debt-free. I love the way Dave Ramsey put it, who's this guru and financial advisor, understanding money. He says, debt is normal, be weird. He says debt can be normal, but be weird. Don't necessarily take on what you don't need to take on. In the season, you don't need to take it on. The goal is not a bashing or shaming or anything. The goal is to remove the cover off debt, look at it like the monster it is, like the beast it is at times, and say, we serve a God that can slay this beast. But let's deal with it as such. Let's add some disciplines, and let's see the benefit for us and generations to come. But I'm going to put Proverbs 13:22 before you again. It says, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. There was this powerful story on July 19th, 2019. CNN released this story of a young lady by the name of Kira Kennard. She was from Iowa. All of her friends were going off to college, and she struggled with the fact of admitting that she didn't have the money to do it. So she would hear all her friends talk about going off to college, and she felt a little discouraged because that wasn't her reality at the time, she thought. She don't know who got rid of hold of her story, but she gets a call one day to say, hey, Kira, we want to offer you a scholarship to get you through college. She gladly took the scholarship. When she found out and did more research, here's what they found about this scholarship fund. It came from a gentleman by the name of Dale Schroeder. He had a lifetime of honest work. He never married, never had children. The journalists, they described him as a man that was very minimalist. He only had a couple pairs of jeans, one for going out on the weekends, one that he worked in. He was a carpenter, so he's more of a blue-collar guy. 67 years of carpentry. He always wanted to go to college, but never was able to go. But in his minimalist living and doing this carpentry, guess what? He saved up $3 million. $3 million he amassed. He died in 2005. And what he wrote into his will, I want you to take this $3 million to get college students, young people that can't afford it, to get through college. This man, his fund just topped out recently. He sent 33 young people through college from all the funds he amassed. After 33. That's the 1322 life. It's to say, hey, it's not just being frugal for the sake of being frugal. It's not just being, let me see if I'm gonna just pray this away. I'm just gonna pray my debt away. Yes, pray. Yes, ask God. But know that there are changes that God can empower us to do, to say, we don't have to be under this burden of debt. We can get through it together, and be encouraged that you have a family around you rooting you on to say, let's see this manifested in our lives.